This is a true story, narrated by the owner of the YouTube channel, Mr. How Ghost Story. This story is titled The Devil Mother. If you haven't seen the previous parts, please start with part 1 available in the playlist to better understand the story. Continuing from the previous part 4 is titled The Crying in the Night, inviting everyone to listen attentively. The Chinese teacher suddenly stopped laughing, looked at John and whispered, "Go boil some water for a bath. There's lemongrass in the garden. Take some leaves and boil them. Remember to add a bit of salt to the pot of water. Once you're done and after bathing, follow me for a walk around this village to see how things are. Oh, and for lunch today, we'll just have rice balls, no salty food." John obediently went to do as instructed. Using salt to purge negative energies is a method often used by those skilled in sorcery. Although the use of salt for exorcism varies from place to place and person to person, the ancient Chinese belief holds that salt has purifying properties and is extremely useful in dispelling evil spirits. People also commonly sprinkle salt at the entrance of their homes or along the roadside to bid farewell to spirits and ward off demons. John had heard from the Chinese teacher that when salt is mixed with water, it enhances the ability to cleanse negative energies, especially since John and the apprentice had both come into contact with the remains of a chicken that had been gnawed on. So it was understandable that the Chinese teacher would ask John to bathe in salt water. After the bath, the homeowner prepared rice for the teacher and his student. The Chinese teacher stretched out his hand to form a seal, mumbling something. Once done, he said to John, "It's exactly noon. It's time for us to set off." John nodded, and as the clock struck 12 p.m., the Chinese teacher and John quietly opened the door and stepped out. The weather today, although close to the new year, was sunny, with rays of sunlight that were not as glaring as in summer, but still made the chilly air of winter somewhat more bearable. The Chinese teacher said, "Since it's the end of winter, beginning of spring, the weather is gloomy, rarely sunny. The reason I told you to go out at this time, 12 p.m., is when the sun is highest in the sky. Although the sunlight is not scorching, demons and spirits shrink away at this time. According to ancient beliefs, this is when the officials go on their rounds, and by going out at this time, we can easily avoid being followed by demons." John softly asked the teacher, "But how can we discover them at this time when you said zombies won't go out during the day?" The Chinese teacher explained, "The purpose of our journey today is to inquire and examine the situation. We can't sit at home and know what's happening outside. Moreover, we can smell the scent of a corpse if we get close to where the demon is hiding. It's difficult, but for me, it's an advantage because the demon cannot go anywhere at this time. We might be able to sense it if we're lucky." Despite saying so, there wasn't a single clue, and despite walking around the village, the teacher and his student discovered nothing. Arriving at a tree located between two villages, they stopped at a water stall run by an old woman who seemed to have been selling there for decades. Pouring 2 cups of water for the teacher and his student, the old woman keenly asked, "Are you two not from around here, perhaps looking for relatives? Ask away, I might be able to help." Pretending to cough, the Chinese teacher spoke to the water seller. "Thank you, ma'am. Indeed, my grandson and I are not from here. We're looking for the house of an acquaintance, but don't know where it is. We've been wandering around this village all afternoon asking, but no one seems to know." The water seller asked, "Which village does your acquaintance live in?" The Chinese teacher took a sip of water and mumbled, "The village across from here, ma'am." The water seller fanned herself to ward off flies and then covered her mouth to giggle. "My goodness, if he's from that village and you're searching here, no wonder you haven't found him. Had you come earlier, I could have directed you. What's the name of your acquaintance?" Pretending to forget, the Chinese teacher said, "Oh dear, my memory isn't what it used to be. I only know we have distant relatives who recently passed away here. So today we came to pay our respects. It's all about fulfilling our duties, ma'am." The water seller thought for a moment and then said, "Recently passed? No one has recently died in this village. Anyway, I'll just give you directions to go there and look. But let me tell you something. The villagers have been whispering about a thief in the village. If you two from elsewhere have anything valuable, be sure to keep it safe." As if catching a lead, the Chinese teacher inquired, "Why, I've heard from relatives living here that the people are kind, never losing anything." The water seller whispered, That's why there's now a big fuss about theft and suspicion among each other. So you being strangers should be careful, lest they think you're the thief. The Chinese teacher replied, "Me, old and near death, what strength would I have to steal? What's missing? Goods or money?" The water seller continued, "Oh dear, our people are so poor, always living hand to mouth. What's there to steal? It's chickens, dogs, ducks that are missing. Probably some young men stealing and selling them for drinking money. But it's strange. Everyone's house has been robbed of chickens, but no one catches the thief. It's like the thief is a ghost, no way to catch him. It's been the talk of the village these past few days. Only I sit here, so I know everything." Just then, two men came in for a drink, and as they sat down, one of them said, "Damn it, 2 days ago, it came into my house and took my 14-kilo dog. Not a bark was heard, and in the morning, all I found was a little blood in the yard. These creatures are getting too bold." The other replied, "2 weeks ago, 3 of my 20 chickens were killed, their necks twisted. But what's strange is that the killed chickens were left behind, but their flesh turned dark, almost black. I didn't dare eat it, but it was a pity to see." The water seller poured water for the two men and then started, "There's an old man who just entered the village looking for someone's house. Maybe you two can help him and his grandson find a place to stay tonight, so they don't end up without a place to sleep." The two men looked the teacher and John up and down and said, You and your grandson just head into the village. If anyone finds you strange, just say you're relatives of Mr. Tyson here and you'll be fine. Oh, and by the way, my name is Tazum." The Chinese teacher quietly thanked the water seller and the two men before standing up to leave. "Let's go, my boy." Quickly, before it gets dark, John helped the teacher and the two headed down the road leading to the village, passing the water stall near the large tree. The Chinese teacher quietly said, "So we have a clue now, my boy. Just as I suspected, this demon has been in one of these two villages for quite some time. Perhaps it initially fed on chickens and ducks at home, and only ventured out to steal from the villagers when those were no more. The longer it lives, the more it needs a stronger source of yang energy. Initially, it only absorbed the life force from animals, but now it has started to consume the flesh of animals too. It won't be long before it turns to humans." John asked softly, "But why haven't they been able to catch it?" The Chinese teacher replied, "You're naive, my boy. After all, it's a demon, not an ordinary human. Even we can't guarantee we'll catch it, let alone ordinary people. That's why I stopped you from opening the door last night. If you had seen it eating live flesh, it would have attacked you too. It left because I have the habit of placing a talisman on the window whenever I sleep somewhere. Both demons and spirits are somewhat wary of talismans. Just like we don't know exactly what it is, it also wouldn't dare to take a risk." Since leaving the homeowner's house, the teacher and his student had been walking for 2 hours, and the sunlight in the evening became increasingly weak. The two wandered through the nooks and crannies of the village, but to no avail. Just as the master had initially said, searching this way was like looking for a needle in a haystack. By 5 p.m., fatigue was clearly visible on John's face. Having followed the teacher through both villages all afternoon and seeing John's exhaustion, the Chinese teacher said, "Let's head back. Getting a few clues on the first day isn't a waste. Continuing like this isn't wise. Let's return to the homeowner's house first. I also have matters to discuss with them." John agreed, and the two returned, finding the homeowner and his wife already waiting at the gate for them. Upon entering, the wife immediately said, "You've had a hard day. Dinner is ready. Please wash your hands and come eat." The Chinese teacher asked the homeowners, "Your family has a young child, don't you?" The wife replied, "Yes, indeed. My husband and I were late bloomers. After years of praying and asking, we were finally blessed with a daughter. Both of us are over 40, but our daughter is only 8 years old. Is there something wrong, teacher?" The Chinese teacher looked around the house and said, "I feel sympathy for you both, so I have to say this. From tomorrow, you should keep your child inside, limit her time outside. I can only say this much, I cannot explain further. Tomorrow morning, I will find a way to help your family." The homeowners bowed deeply to thank the Chinese teacher, filled with gratitude. After dinner, John asked his master, "Could it be that it's around here, teacher?" The Chinese teacher answered, I'm not certain, but it came here last night. Moreover, since this house has a young child, it's not impossible that it will return. That's why you need to be vigilant tonight. Now take these talismans and stick them on all the doors in the house, including the windows and the main entrance. John hurried to do as instructed, as darkness enveloped the house. Since discovering that a zombie had visited, John felt a noticeable change in the atmosphere around the house. Partly out of fear, partly because John sensed something incredibly strange in his master, the Chinese teacher came to John's house with the job of a gravedigger. But over the years with him, John saw that the teacher was not just that simple. Especially this time, it was clear that the Chinese teacher found the terrifying situation of facing a zombie exciting. Not only that, but there seemed to be a chilling look in the teacher's eyes whenever he mentioned the zombie. Startled by a fleeting thought, the origins of the Chinese teacher had remained a mystery to John for many years. The teacher's excitement about the zombie filled John with fear. It was at that moment John realized he knew nothing about his respected master. In an instant, John envisioned the Chinese teacher in a dark cellar, lit only by a dim candle, slowly feeding a bowl of fresh blood to a corpse lying in a coffin. Suddenly, the corpse opened its eyes and sat up. John cried out in panic. "Ah, no, it can't be!" The Chinese teacher approached, extending his hand. But John instinctively stepped back, realizing it had all been his imagination. They were still in the homeowner's house. Seeing John sweating profusely, the Chinese teacher asked, "Are you ill? You've been tired all day. Take a nap. I'll keep watch." John hurriedly wiped the sweat beads and stuttered, "Yes, I'm fine. Please allow me to rest." With a deep sigh, John regained his composure, realizing it was just a hallucination. How could a good person like the Chinese teacher do such a thing? The sound of insects from the vegetable garden buzzed softly, occasionally mixed with the croaking of frogs. The night fell silent, eerily so. If a zombie truly appeared, John felt he wouldn't be able to move. His legs had been stiff since sitting at the table drinking water. The Chinese teacher was reading under an oil lamp, a book filled with characters unknown to John. At night, with his long hair loose under the lamp's light, the teacher occasionally smiled gently, as if he had read something amusing. Looking at his master, John was too frightened to breathe loudly. The teacher then seemed like a ghost with his white hair. Suddenly, John flinched as something seemed to hit the window pane. "Meow! Meow! Meow!" The damn cat, its meowing in the night sounded like a crying child. The space, the people, the scenery, all of it made John feel extremely unsettled. Part 4 has concluded. Please remember to subscribe to the channel to watch Part 4. Thank you very much. Goodbye and see you in the next video.